Vayomer Hashem al Avram Lech-Lecha meyartzecha. The parasha begins with God telling Avraham, Lech-Lecha meyartzecha, go leave your homeland and go to the land which I will send you. And it says, Lech-Lecha, so the famous Medrash writes, Lecha, you are exempt from the mitzvah of kibbud av v'em. In other words, that's a whole discussion about exactly the parameters of honoring one's parents, what is included. If they tell you not to go to Eretz Yisrael, they tell you X, Y, or Z, when do you have to listen, when you don't have to? So the Medrash here learns out, Lech-Lecha, you're exempt from kibbud av v'em. Presumably because you're doing, because God's telling you to go. So what is mashma from this Medrash? That Avram is obligated in kibbud av v'em, which is fine. So we see from here that Avram is obligated in the mitzvah of honoring one's parents. The problem is, we all know that before the Torah was given, there were 7 universal laws, the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, as they're known. And those are the things that were binding on the people. So was kibbud av v'em, was honoring one's parents included in the mitzvah, one of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach? At first glance, the answer is simple. No. Because there are 7 mitzvahs B'nai Noach, and you do not find the mitzvah of honoring one's parents. What are the 7 mitzvahs B'nai Noach? So the way I remember them are, you have the big 3, the 3 things you have to give up your life for. So that is idol worship, illicit relations, sexual transgressions, and murder. And then Aleph Beis Gimel Daled. Aleph Aver Min Achai, eating a limb torn from a live animal. There is Beis Birkas Hashem, blessing God. It's a euphemism, cursing God. Gezel, stealing, theft. And Dinim, setting up a court system. And of course, within is the famous machlokes Rambam on how far Dinim goes, what kind of court system that the society runs, or the whole comprehensive Choshen Mishpat. So it's a whole discussion on all these, what are the parameters. But the 7 mitzvahs B'nai Noach are the ones we listed, and kibbud av v'em is conspicuous from it by its absence. So the question is, how does the Medrash know, Lech-Lecha, you're exempt from kibbud av v'em because you're going to do God's work? But implying that what? That beforehand Avram was chayav in kibbud av v'em. How could Avram be chayav in kibbud av v'em if it's not one of the 7 mitzvahs B'nai Noach? In other words, that Gentiles are non-Jews obligated in the mitzvah of the 7, they're obviously obligated in the 7 mitzvahs B'nai Noach, and they're obligated in the mitzvah of kibbud av v'em. So the different approaches the commentators take. So one approach is that, yeah, it's in the 7 mitzvahs B'nai Noach. You just got to dig deeper, as Rav Sajagon writes regarding the 10 commandments, the Aseres HaDibros, I should say, the 10 principles. 6 plus 1 plus 3 equal 10. The 613 commandments equal the 10 the Aseres HaDibros. The Aseres HaDibros equals 613 mitzvahs. So they point out that, and so where do we see not to embarrass someone publicly in the 10 commandments? So they point out, Rav Sajagon has a whole book going through all the mitzvahs. He says we learn it out from not to murder, because embarrassing someone publicly is a form of murder. And he has a whole list of things. Some are more mukhrach, others are more, you have to be more liberal in your definitions. So that's what we have by the 613 mitzvahs. That's what we have by the Aseres HaDibros. So too by the Sheva mitzvahs B'nai Noach. In other words, you have to wonder which of the 7 falls under the rubric, under the category of Kibbutz Avim. So actually there are two different schools of thought over which ones they fall under. So one school of thought is, I think it's the Chidushei Harim, but it could be others. It falls under the category of Berkas Hashem, blessing God, cursing God. Where do we see there's a mitzvah of honoring one's parents based on the prohibition of cursing out God? So it's an allusion to the Gemara in Kiddushin that the famous question is, we know in the Aseres HaDibros, that's set up into two categories. The first 5 are commandments between man and God, and the second 5 are commandments between man and man, interpersonal. And yet the famous question is, but what is Kibbutz Avim, honoring one's parents, doing on the wrong side of the tablet? They should be on the other side of the tablet. Kids are people too, parents are people too. So Chazal tell us the uniqueness of the mitzvah of Kibbutz Avim. Not only is Kibbutz Avim a mitzvah ben adam l'chaveiro, but it's also a mitzvah ben adam l'makom, because as the Gemara tells us, we have 3 creators: God, Mommy, and Daddy. But since Daddy and Mommy are one of the creators, so we see that cursing God is part of the mitzvah of respecting people who created you. And since our parents are our creators, hence the biblical mitzvah based on Birkas Hashem. The other pasuk others bring down is from Dinim, a court system. As we know, Kibbutz Avim is one of the most logical mitzvahs around. I mean, you have some wackos who treat their parents like garbage and treat everyone else well. But normal people, obviously, if you say, what's the root of society of Kibbutz Avim? Kibbutz Avim is, honoring for elders, honoring your parents. And that's why we see it, this parenthetically, we see it, different generations. Today it's a total lack of honoring elders, honoring your parents. It's a different, this when you see from all the shows on today, that basically used to be father knows best. I think that was one of the TV shows in the 60s, 70s. Today, well, the shows you have on family, basically, the kids know everything. The mother and father are a bunch of dopes, and that's the perception of the new modern family. So we see that's the root of society is the family. And that's why today, since so many divorces, separations, that's one of the many problems with today's society, teaching values, there are no parents. So you learn values at home and society teaches them. So dinim, the basics of setting up a court system, if you don't have a court system, people are going to swallow each other up. That's what Kibbutz Avim falls under, the basics of a society that doesn't honor the parents, a society that doesn't have much hope. So that's another. So we asked, how does the Midrash know that Avram was chayiv in Kibbutz Avim if it's not one of the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach? The answer it is. It's under. It's not an explicit one, but it's under Berkas Hashem or under Dinim. And in fact, that's one of the famous kashas they asked about Noach ol Adam, that a person, the Gemara learns out that better to jump into fiery furnace than embarrass someone publicly. That's the whole discussion. Is that this the Nagadata? Is it halachic? So the Rishonim wrestle with the question. There are many answers, but the question is, how come if it's better to jump into the fiery furnace than embarrass someone publicly? So why isn't it one of the mitzvahs you have to give up your life for? So there are many answers, but one answer is it is. But since it's not explicit, so therefore it falls under the category of lo tzitzak. Basically, it's under the rubric of lo tzitzak. We paskin halacha probably that not the Meiri and the Rambam. You definitely shouldn't be doing it, but to give up your life, that probably isn't. You probably don't have to give up your life for that. So moving to a third approach from the Ran, not the classical Ran Rabbeinu Nissim, another Ran, in the Hakdama, he tells us a general rule about the different types of categories of mitzvahs. We know in Judaism we have mitzvahs of edus, those are like testimonies, tefillin, there are mishpatim, more common sense rules, and then you have chukim, which you just do because God said so, paraduma, etc., shatnez. So they point out, so we know, Chazal tell us there are 7 universal laws. Does that mean, the Ran asks, that's it? If you don't have to keep, anything that's not under the 7 universal laws, a Gentile doesn't have to keep? So what about, for instance, the mitzvah of tzedakah, giving charity? You mean a non-Jew is not obligated in charity? It's a discussion whether he is or he's not. But one of the proofs that he is the pasuk says when it came to Sodom and Amorah, why were they punished? Why were they destroyed? Because Yad Adi ve'ev yomo exiko, they didn't help the poor. So the question is, they didn't help the poor. If they didn't have to help the poor, then how could it be that they were punished for it? So therefore some say that they were obligated. So, but if they are obligated, where do we find it in the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach? That's what the Ran introduces, the concept of mitzvah sichlis, and different explanation exactly what it means, but common sense laws. Exactly what is common sense, what isn't, as the famous quote from Mark Twain is, unfortunately common sense ain't too common. And therefore, we could discuss what common sense is. But the Ran writes, any mitzvah that is common sense, seichel, a non-Jew is obligated as well. So tzedakah and kibbud avayim, let's say it's not under the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach, it's under the general rule. It's 7 mitzvahs plus mitzvah sicha, so it falls under the other category. In fact, the kasha is, it's a famous Gemara in Kiddushin. There was this guy, Dama ben Nesina, who was very meticulous in kibbud avayim. And he went so far, the Gemara has a story where his father was sleeping, and there was a key, different version to the story, that basically he could have made a lot of money. Again, if it was father's money, that's a different question. If your father wants you to wake you up, maybe your father wanted to wake you up for you also. But the case in the Gemara was, it was for him. He was willing to sacrifice a lot of money not to wake up his father, not to violate kibbud avayim. And the end result, he was rewarded, and he even became wealthier. So when the Gemara is discussing the story in Kiddushin, the Gemara makes the following statement. It says, if Dama ben Nesina, who wasn't obligated in honoring a parent, went so far and did this, how much more so you the Jews, who are obligated in kibbud avayim, how far do you have to go? So what do we see from this Gemara? It seems to be against what we've been saying, that we see from this Gemara, a guy is not obligated in kibbud avayim. So what do you mean? So the commentators explain, no, like the Ran, that when do we say a guy is chayiv in kibbud avayim? That's on the mitzvah sichlis, that's on common sense laws. In other words, not to punch your parents in the face, not to curse them out, not to throw things at them, that you're chayiv in. But to give up $5 million in order not to wake up your parent, in fact, common sense dictates the opposite. So therefore, that's the distinction. So we see, so we have 3 approaches on why Avraham, or why a non-Jew is chayiv in kibbud avayim. Either it falls under Bereshis Hashem, because our parents are our creators. It falls under dinim, setting up a court system, and therefore the biggest common sense law in setting up a system is honoring your elders, honoring your parents. Or thirdly, like the Ran, it's a mitzvah sichlis, and therefore it's 7 mitzvahs plus the mitzvahs, and that's the pshat in the Medrash. Now, Avram, up until now you're obligated in kibbud avayim, but now Lech-Lecha, now I'm sending you on a mission, I'm to exempt you now from kibbud avayim, clearly implying that a ben Noach is obligated in the mitzvah of honoring one's parents.